all dear colleagues and our delegates who have joined us not only from India but from other parts of the country. It is my opportunity to introduce you all to Dr. Dileep Kumar M, who is a professor of entrepreneurship, innovation, research and strategy in Africa Business School, Mohamed VI Polytechnic University, Morocco. With double doctorate, PhD, and DBA in Human Resource Management and Organizational Behavior, he has spent 18 years of his time in teaching, research, training, and consultancy. He has engaged himself in human capital development initiatives of corporate and institutional development process. He has written 8 short case studies, 160 international and national peer-reviewed journal publications, 65 management papers in international and national conferences, and with 9 books written and 3 monographs in the area of business and human resource management. So with this, I shall be now requesting our expert on board to address the participants with his topic, instrumentation in research, adaptation, adoption, and development. Over to you, Dr. Dileep.
Thank you, Yachna. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And before I start the session, you know that some teachers are very strict. I belong to that category, very old person, you know, in my thoughts. So please switch off your mobile phones. Please switch off your microphone. It will help me. Otherwise, I get distracted. So my focus is your best. It will help you to new normal days. Otherwise, you will be into full abnormal days in publication, right? So I hope you are getting the glance of my PPT now. You can see my PPT, right?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Okay, I started sharing. So don't share anybody in between. Okay, so I'm telling every faculty member and the students to focus on. Maybe you get lost in between. It's a very tough area I'm going to share you, and a different type of approaches you need to adopt when you have to do a proper research. So starting with this short workshop on what I would say, instrumentation. This process, I used to do it in 2 days, usually in campus, but I know I'm getting 1.5 hours. So within that duration, I try my level best to fix you the knowledge, but try to follow that pattern. It's tough, really tough. Some of the areas quite easy for you to understand. Some of them, it takes some time to understand. So let certain things I'll share you, certain things cannot. So let me start with this short workshop on instrument development, adaptation, adoption, and development. You may be knowing this many times in your research when as a new research scholar, or maybe what you would say you're doing already the research. So many times when let me share you, I'm around 28 universities. I'm PhD external evaluator. So when I'm getting the thesis from India, I really have concern. Usually I don't like to fail candidates, but you need to give the lifeline every time, 50-50. Are you ready for that change? So I used to write major revisions, and I want to get back the thesis to see once again whether that thesis is properly segregated or not in accordance with international standard. So around 13 years back, I left India. So that particular time, just like you people, me, myself. So in their growth, you can see over here for the past around 6 years or 7 years only. And in that duration, I had to unlearn a lot of things, and I have to learn a lot of things. And that learning and unlearning process, which is continuous in life, nobody is perfect in life. So that happened to me what I am, and I'm coming to you as a resource person one day. So let me start with adoption, adaptation, and development. You know that basically instrument or scale development, which is a systematic process. Don't do it haphazardly. And it is basically connected with items. It is basically connected with constructs. It is basically connected with the scales. If you ask me the question, people used to talk about measurements. Oh, I have to look at the measurements of research. So basically, they're not talking about anything. It talks about items, scales, and connection of these items and the scales together in its application side, it is called as measurements. So if you don't have the scales with you, it is not a measurement in quantitative research. But if you don't have a scale, still it is an item, and that we call it as a protocol question in qualitative research. So what makes the difference of a deductive approach and an inductive approach means that what makes the difference between a quantitative research and a qualitative research is scales introduction. Scales introduction into the items. So we call items as questionnaire. Number of items, we call it as number of questions, exactly, synonym. And it leads to surveys, and we need to have different types of scales like Likert scale, Bogader scale, Thurston scale, different types of scales you can use it. Even you can build up 7-point, 6-point, 8-point, 10-point scales. It doesn't matter. Most important thing, how you convert the qualitative data into quantitative data. This is most important thing. So what is facilitate? Basically, instrument facilitate you to get the qualitative data from the field and convert it into numbers. You know that statistics need numbers. Without numbers, statistics cannot apply. Hence, because we need to convert the qualitative data into quantitative data through instruments. After that, this quantitative data that we received from the field once again converted into qualitative data for interpretation. So if somebody asks me the question, what is quali, what is quanti? I don't understand many times. Every research starts with quali, move with quanti. Maybe you end up there, or else once again you go with qualitative research. It is circle, just like thesis, antithesis, and thesis, as Marx mentioned. The same thing is applicable in our research also. We need to look at this changes, and this starts with qualitative text data, and we don't know. If we get the text, there is no provision for us partial structural equation modeling or SPSS or R analysis or anything. We cannot do anything because it is a text. It's feelings and expressions of the people. Hence because we need to convert that text to numbers. That is the purpose of scales. So scale, this instrument or the scale development is the systematic process of getting the right items, connecting with the scale, and go for empirical observation to know whether that items are really responding you back or not. Right? So the term instrument may refer to a question, a set of questions. It can refer to collection of question sets. It can be different types of questions, but it should be connected with a scale. So instrument turned to be an instrument only when the items connected with the scales in quantitative research. But the instrument turned to be in quali, it is just a statement. There is no scale. So instruments are standardized questionnaires with demonstrated reliability and validity. I'm going to talk about this term reliability. Take an example. You want to select a good friend. How do you select that friend? So that friend is at my pain also, it is supporting my during my pleasure also be with me. So who is a good friend? A friend who is consistent in behavior, a consistent in his or her honesty, consistent in trust. So I can depend on that particular person. I can depend on that friend. That friend is not going to dump me if when I am facing some issues of life, and that friend will be with me continuously. Means that you go to America, you go to Australia, you go to MENA region, or anywhere you go, that friend will be with you, and the friend is giving you the same friendship. A friend, okay, but what is the process happening? Friendship. The same thing is applicable in the case of an instrument also. Means that a questionnaire or an instrument. So I'm using continuously. Instrument means that it is questionnaire. All right. So when I have to use a questionnaire in African continent, or I have to use in US, I have to use in North America or South America or France or Italy or Europe or anywhere, it gives you the same kind of responses. Means that the response coming from varied level of respondents are same. Consistent. Consistent means credible. Consistent means dependable. Consistent means confirmable. Consistent means transferable. Credibility, dependability, confirmability, and transferability. This is the nature of consistency that we call reliability. Are you reliable? Are you trustable? Are you consistent? This is exactly the question. At the same time, validity. Validity is not connected with consistency. Validity is connected with the content you are using inside the questionnaire is appropriate enough to get the proper response from the respondents or not. Many type of validity you have to do when you have to do deductive research, means that quantitative research, like content validity, construct validity, criterion validity, phase validity, discriminant validity, convergent validity. Likewise, a lot of validities you have to do before you get into a large scale data collection process. That's what, when you use partial least square structural equation modeling or MOS, we have to do measurement model first. And after measurement model only, you are supposed to do the structural model. Measurement model is connected with the construct and the items relationship. But the structural model is connected with the hypothesis. So we have to make a clear-cut understanding about how they apply, how they give the consistent results. You apply in US, same results. You apply in Africa, same results. India, different results. So same this, if you are getting consistent, either favorable or unfavorable, still the response is quite okay. That we call reliability. And the content, which is called as valid, it's valid. So instruments measure the latent constructs, motivation, perfectionism, leadership, or anything, all are latent constructs, which examine the multiple types of specific research questions and used in many types of studies investigating the construct. So here I'm trying to share you the item and item analysis. Item means questions and item analysis means question analysis. What is this item analysis? Basically, two types of things. One is an item should not be too easy to answer by a respondent. An item should be so difficult to appear for a respondent. It should not be. These two criterion should not be there connected with an item analysis. That's why we are making use of many type of item analysis, discriminant validity, what you would say convergent validity, all kinds of things we are checking on that. Why? Because the items are so difficult for the people to answer or not. And you may be doing pilot testing many times. When you do the pilot testing, what we are checking basically item difficulty and item discrimination. Item difficulty in the sense that if the item is so difficult to answer, it's very difficult for the respondents to respond. They will tell you, they will just tick and give it back to you, and you got the wrong truth. You are not leading to the right truth. So there is a problem and your entire findings will be collapsed. You get all insignificant findings and the reality were somewhere and you do a truth somewhere. So this is the problem happening. So it's very important aspect that you need to look into item analysis. So here, what is item? A single task or questions that usually cannot be broken down into any smaller units. It's a text. My boss is very rigid, or the leadership is supportive in nature. My boss support my promotion. All these lines you are talking about is an item. So here we need to provide absolute items, which is that each word inside the item should be having a psychometric property. Take an example. If you use the word, rigid, the question is that word, my boss is very rigid. My director is very rigid. So when you personalize that question to somebody, rigidity, what is the meaning of this rigidity? If somebody doesn't know this meaning, it's very tough for that person to answer you back. Likewise, every statement you are using inside a questionnaire, every word has tested psychometric property. It's not a questionnaire what you are seeing. Inside, very complicated process has done to ensure the proper psychometric property of each word inside the item. So that item should not be so easy to answer. Everybody answer yes. it leads to outliers. Everybody answer no, it leads to outlier. So these outliers, if you want to remove from the items, that's what we are doing, item analysis. That's what we are doing, measurement model analysis. So that particular time, we have to go to field, we collect the data, that means based on the questionnaire, and look at whether that questions are reliable enough to pass it once again back in a larger population, so that we will be getting absolute answers for the questions. This is exactly the thing. You should be very much cautious. Means that when you adopt or adapt a questionnaire, adopt a questionnaire from West, it may not be suitable for you to use it in Indian continent or Indian culture or the values. Means that when that instrument developed in West, the respondents were West and our respondents are Asians. So the culture, the perspective, understanding, the values, everything different from the West. So the way they responded based on the needs of West may be different from the way we are exactly looking upon the needs and the items in India. To take an example, a small coin, 25, I remember 25 cents coin in India. You give that 27-cent coin to a poor person, he tell, oh, it's so much amount of money. But this same small coin, if you give it to a rich person, what peanuts you are giving to me? The perspective changing. So the way people looking upon a phenomenon by a US person may be different from Indian person. So this makes the items different. So we need to ensure that items probability across the continent. If that you are not ensuring, it's tough for you to get a right input from the respondent. That's what many questionnaires are turned to be failed. We cannot adopt, they're turned to be redundant because that items cannot use universally. Hence, because we used to tell you to use standardized instruments. Why? Because that questions have been tested in across the world. They tested psychometry property is understood properly. Hence, because of that, you can apply it in India. Got it. So item numbers is very important. So item analysis examines individual responses to individual test items, as is the quality of those items and of test as a whole. Each item we have to check it, and collectively, take an example, I'm a teacher. I got around 25 students inside the classroom. But as a teacher, it's my feeling that all my students should perform well. All the 25 students should be the best, the creamy layer students exactly. But the issue is that they are human beings, may not be like that. So one of them, two of them, three of them, four of them cannot perform properly. So the issue is that if you as a teacher want to run as a good teacher, you incorporate everybody. But this is not the case of instrument. You need to get that 25 students, means 25 items in a classroom or items in an instrument to be performed well. Then only you can go to field. So making that 25 items perfect is a teacher's job. So when you do that, out of these 25 items, who are exactly dumb, cannot get into the field, and which are the items can perform well with the responses of the respondents, that process is called pilot testing. So you go to the field and test the items are good enough to get proper responses or not. So we used to do, people think that only one time the pilot testing is sufficient. It's not like that. Maybe 2 to 3 times you have to go back, get back, look at the Cronbach alpha, go back and then come back, change the items, and once again test. It takes around 3 to 4 times. If you are really doing a good research, you have to do that process, because before you go ahead with extreme form of population, it's very important, because representation, randomization, control, as well as homogeneity matters. So if your population is heterogeneous, it's tough for you to get the right response. So most important thing, look at this item analysis, and where we have to change the items, where we don't have to, look at that probability. So here, item analysis talks about the way of measuring the quality of items, quality of questions, It talks about items which were pre-tested for difficulty and discrimination. Means that you used to do discriminant validity. So in that analysis, there are different factors. Take an example. One factor is service quality, and the second factor is perceived value, and it is influencing visitor satisfaction. Look about visitor satisfaction is the DV, dependent variable. Service quality and perceived value is turned to be the IV1, IV2. Look at these two relationship exactly. The question is, the items which you are posing in service quality should not correlate with the items you are posing in perceived value. Should not correlate with items you are pursuing in what you would say the dependent variable visitor satisfaction. So each item should be distinct. Means that in a classroom for a teacher, each student is distinct in performance. Because the psychometric property of Mr. Ashish is different from Mr. Rachna, different from Mohamed, different from different people. Their psychometric DNA is different, but still, when they put on in the field, they perform equally well. Equally well. So we need to test our. If your classroom need to perform well, you need to look at your students are good or not. Oh, I'm the class teacher of A. I'm a prestigious teacher. Why? All my students are performing well. The same thing is applicable. If you want to feel proud yourself on the factors, each items inside the factors should not be correlated. At the same time, collectively, it should measure the phenomenon you are studying. Collectively, when they put collectively, they work together. At the same time, each student is different. So they have to perform group-wise also, they have to perform individual-wise also. So discriminant validity, when you do that, which are the items are discriminated, means that maybe different from others or not. Another is convergent. Convergent indicate all the items together can perform or not. Individually can perform or not is called as discrimination. Together they can perform or not, it is called as convergent. So an item in a 20 questions are with you. These 20 questions together should function. At the same time, 20 questions each other has different psychometric property and they perform individually also. Got it? That is exactly this difference. So by giving them an experimental design to a group of examinees by fairly representative of the target population, item analysis to be done. For the test computing an index of difficulty and index of discrimination, you need to build up to do proper item analysis. And retaining for the find, that means which are the items I should drop and which are the item I should retain. So 25 students inside the classroom, it doesn't mean that all the 25 students I want in order to perform my class. No, you need to look at the best candidate to develop the best of classrooms. Likewise, best items, best question to be selected to perform in the field. That is your role as a researcher. So here, purpose of item analysis basically to evaluate the quality of research items. Rationale is basically connected with quality of the item determine the quality of test. If your items are wrong, your test is already gone from your hand. You cannot do anything. Everything lies in research, everything lies with data. So if your instrument for data collection is wrong, everything wrong. If your respondents are wrong, everything wrong. Everything connected with research, you need to be very careful. Because in quantitative research, you are objective in nature. You never influence the people, you never influence the location or the items, nothing. You are totally objective. So when you make an objective assessment, you are impartial in nature. Impartial in nature. You are neutral in nature. Hence, because you have to look at the probability of getting the right items. Means that in your life also, if you want to live happily, you need to get good friends around you. Correct? So you are very good in selection of best of friends who can help you in growth, who can help you in emotionally constrained situations, right? So you are very good in selection of friends. My question is, why you are not applying the same criteria when you are looking at items? Why don't you select the right items to get the right response from the respondents? We never do that because research, who cares? Friendship, we case. So it should not be like that. That's because a lot of studies turn to be insignificant in relationship. So may suggest ways of improving measurements to test can help with understanding why certain tests predict some criteria, but not others. You cannot take an example. If you go for items, two items to be correlated means that you use correlation. Two items to be regretted means that make predictions. You regression. Two items to be varied analysis. ANOVA. You need to analyze all these items together with concepts modeling. So all these tests are totally different in accordance with the way you are presenting. So why item analysis? Because the items, we need to check whether the items are congruent with, that means attached with the test objectives or not. We have a construct or number of constructs and connected with the concept, whether that is suitable or not. First question. Second, are these items are valid? The content inside the statement is good enough to get the right responses or not? Third, do they measure what they're supposed to measure? You take an example, self-confidence and self-reliance, self-confidence and self-determination, self-confidence and self-esteem. If you look upon self-esteem, self-determination, self-reliance, all are almost similar words. But you look at the psychometric property, it's totally different. So you cannot use self-determination in space of self-esteem. You cannot use self-esteem in space of self-reliance and self-confidence. So very careful on what are you measuring, and the same thing, am I measuring it or not? This is called it as validity. So reliability indicate that how much consistent that instrument is performing. Some authors performed that item analysis and applied in Africa, they got the right results. And somewhere applied it in US and they got the right results. Somewhere these same instruments applied in European countries, they applied it, they got the results. And somewhere in Asian and Central Asia or Southeast Asian countries, they got it. Means that that instrument is reliable, means that consistently performing. Take an example, you have some money. You want to invest in the stock. If the company is not performing, will you invest in that stock? You may not be doing that because you want to get the return of investment. When you talk about money, you can think about it. When you talk about instruments, you are not thinking about it. I don't understand many times the logic. When you have to select a good friend, you invest in that. When you have to select a good item, you are not investing in that. That's not the right logic. So the same thing applicable in instrument development also, right? So measure consistently. Everywhere we are getting a Cronbach alpha, which is 0.7 or 0.8 and above everywhere. And how long does it take an examiner to complete each item? Are you giving a complex item? If a complex item is coming, they will be taking so much of time to answer the question. So much of time means that it's not a good item. So you need to have the items not so easy, not so difficult, and it is thinkable questions. Making them maybe by 30 seconds or 40 seconds can answer it properly, right? So what items are most difficult, leave it. And what items are easy, you look at the probability of each item, go for pilot testing. And after that, look at whether I have to restructure these questions and once again go back and check it, or I have to delete this out. You cannot delete the items very fast. If you delete an item by yourself, it is subjective. It is based on your preconceived notions. You should not do that. In research, everything is objective. Hence, because we need to check the validity and reliability of it, right? So items easy, you make it thinkable. Items difficult, you make it thinkable. And then once again, do the pilot testing, very important. So are there any poor performing items that need to be discarded? This is the purpose with which we are doing item analysis. So in this context, I am taking you to my first session, which is connected to adoption, adaption. And the last is a bit complicated. I will ask Yachana to give a little more time. It is complicated, development. And I'll tell you, development is a PhD thesis. If you want to develop an instrument, it is a PhD thesis. It takes around 3 to 4 years duration. So first, adoption and adaption, I will let you know very fast, but give me some space for explaining to you development. Basically, you are not supposed to develop. Basically, You are not encouraged to do that. If you're encouraged to do that, you need to have time to do that. It's a very complicated process. So this is exactly the questions, sorry, the content I'm going to share. So what do you mean by adaptation of instruments? If you find a pre-existing instrument, already existing instrument, standardized instrument, that will be useful to measure a key variable in your study. And there are two ways that instrument can be used in your study. So when I get a thesis or when I get a research paper for evaluation, being into the Scopus and Vo's editorial board member, when I get a paper to look at it, okay, whether the candidate, whether the author has adopted an instrument or adapted the instrument, I'll check on that. I'll check on that. Adoption is different from adaptation. So many times people interminglingly use it and it turned to be totally absurd, right? So the first task is to take the instrument nearly verbatim, which is called adopting. Means that you are getting an instrument, you're not going to change anything. Not even one word in that instrument, you are going to change it. Everything as it is called as adoption. But at the time you are getting an instrument, that instrument has used in manufacturing unit. I'm using it in a plantation, oil palm plantations or any kind of agriculture sector. So a manufacturing sector and an agriculture sector is different. So we have to little bit adapt to the sector, adapt to the people, adapt to the context. Got it? So adapt to the location means that the instrument is coming from West and you have to use it in the East or Asian countries. You need to look at the probability of adaptation. That is dangerous. That is dangerous. So when you adapt, careful that you should not lose the psychometric property which has developed by the past authors with so many experiments. You are touching on it and it is forbidden. When you touch it, give me the logic why you touched it, why you changed it, where is the justification, where is the supporting evidence, there is a need of it, right? This is exactly very careful. So adapting, in general, adopting is preferable to adapting for a few reasons. We used to ask the candidates to go with adapting. First, when the instrument is adopted, then the reliability, validity of the study is already established. When you adopt an instrument, it's already available, so you don't have to do it once again. Got it? So you have the validity. Every item have the factor loading maybe 0.5 and above, and all these factors having the Cronbach alpha 0.8 and above. So it is already checked. It is already checked. But still, I tell you, dear my scholars, please do it. Even when adopting, please do it, because many items which cannot perform in Asian context, Southeast Asian context, Central Asian context, and likewise, which are all coming from the West. Respondents varied. So I may suggest you to do that for the sake of safety. However, when an instrument has been adapted, then it has been significantly changed. So the reliability and validity evidence will not apply to your study. Means that the time you're thinking about this instrument I'm adopting from manufacturing unit and I'm going to study it in a retail unit, means that the words which are suitable to manufacturing units used inside the instrument may not be sufficient enough to use it in a retail sector. Got it? So you have to adapt it. You have to change between. When you touch any item, when you touch, it's like a virgin girl. When you touch it, gone. So everything is secondhand now. All right. The same thing is applicable here. When you touch that instrument and changed it, it lost its psychometric property. And you need to define that item in a different way, connecting to retail sector. So the virginity of that particular item lost. Hence, because we need to look at, even if you made it lost, if you're responsible for making it lost, the psychometry, it's your responsibility to regain with a different shape. If you don't do that, you haphazardly do, and you are exactly collapsing that item. So don't do that. Don't do that. So we need to get the extreme form of virginity back to that items so that they look much better in comparison with the past. You got it? So when you adapt it, be careful the statistics changes. Adapting an instrument requires more substantial changes than adopting an instrument. And this situation exactly the researcher follows, where general design of the another instruments add the items, removes the items, or substantially change the items. Three things are you are doing it. Here you are trying to look at how many items I have to take out. How many items contextually I need to add inside existing instrument. You can add items, you can delete items. How I can do that? And you're doing that in adaption. Hence, because the psychometry property has changed, connected to the factor as well as the items. A factor consists of number of items, so it is changed. It is changed. Hence, because adapting an instrument is similar to developing a new instrument, but it is not developing in context, but we can tell it like that. I'm developing because 3 items of service quality coming from this person, 3 items from the another person, 3 items from the another person, and 5 items from, so total 22 items of these instruments coming from 5 authors and 5 instruments. It's not from one instrument I developed. You can tell it like that, but that adapting is dangerous. You need to have the logic to be supported through literature. If your hypothesis-based literature connecting to the construct and the need of that construct is not well established, then definitely the item tend to be wrong. So it's a dangerous effort you are doing when you adapt an instrument. That is exactly the task of many researchers. When adapting an instrument, the researcher should report the same information in the instrument section as when adopting the instrument, but should also include what changes. Take an example when you write your research paper. So what is exactly the original instrument? How many items in that instrument? Who is the real author of that instrument? Or what is the Cronbach alpha reliability? Number of items, Cronbach alpha, and which year it has come. All these things you have to mention. But when you adapt it in your study, most important thing, how much change you brought into the number of items, Cronbach alpha, right? So this is very important aspect. So how it is supporting you to apply in your research field, that we need to mention. So 2 tables needed. What is the original and what is the changed one? Author, construct and subconstructs, okay, items, reliability, and the year of publication must. So these kind of things should be very careful when you adapt it. So what changes you have bought into. Some of the items you might have modified. Some of the items which is applicable in one country may not be applicable to another country. I'll give you some example. So you need to be very careful inside each item, how that item is suitable. So some of the countries, the same word using, take an example, if you ask America, poverty, they don't know. Now only they know what is poverty because unemployment, but it is suffered by Africans, Asians, and likewise continuously. They know the value of poverty. All right, they are suffering now, urban poverty. So this is exactly the scenario. So let me take you to this example. Factors influencing teaching choice, FIT scale. This instrument was developed by Watt and Richardson in 2007. Validity evidence was supported by factor analysis, the analysis which we are doing for items reliability and item validity exactly. The longitudinal relationship of the factors influencing teaching to subsequent engagement in teaching profession. So the purpose of FIT choice is to determine the factors that pre-service teachers identify as being the most influential in their choice of teaching profession. So here you need to look into how it has changed. When you apply this scale to different countries, how it has changed. Take an example here. This study modified to fit the Nigerian context. All factors were identical to the original FIT choice instrument except 2 questions. All the items, okay, but 2 questions we cannot ask in a Nigerian context. Let us see which are these items. So items such as in the original, teaching will be useful job for me to have when traveling. This is one question inside. I don't know how the traveling is connected with teaching, but this is a standardized instrument, remember. And this factor was just as not applicable to Nigerian pre-service teachers. And additionally, an exploitation component also coming. So teaching as a lazy, easy career with items such as teaching will allow me to work other jobs also. There is an item inside. And teaching will allow me to collect a salary by doing little work. And when teaching, I can use students for gaining money. So these kind of questions, which is really, really, really applicable to your content, your context or not, you need to check it. So when the author looked upon these items, it's not applicable to Nigerian context. So the instrument was developed for university students exactly. Traveling, conferences, keynote speakership, all kinds of things are coming to university students. Your sample is primary students, school students, etc. The context changed from university to the school. So the language on the instrument is too advanced for the sample. You mean the language changed? When the language is not suitable to apply that in the field, do you think that you will get the right response? Impossible. So the items to be modified, redefined, reshaped, or deleted. So these are the things you have to do. So this instrument will need to be adapted to rephrasing the items into one words that primary school people will understand. So manifestation of the variable may differ between group of instruments that was developed for original and your sample. Most important to you is your sample. Your sample, your baby is most important thing, others' baby. When you adopt or adapt another kid, you are doing that. You have to cut the nails, you have to comb the hair, you have to do all kinds of dressing suitable to Indian style. Indian style of clothing is different from Western style of clothing. You may be knowing that. And totally different concept of clothing, correct? So for example, a researcher might interested in mother's attention to their infants. That is a variable. That is the variable, mother's attention to their infants. So in a Western culture where the instrument was developed, motherly attention might be manifested by a mother spending time playing with the toys and their infants. So the psychometric property, look at the psychometric property, a mother spending time playing with toys and infants. For them, it is exactly what you would say, mother's attention. But you look up at Nigeria, motherly attention might be sleeping with a kid or a small infant in the same bed at night. That is for them motherly in nature. So the psychometric property, that means the perception of the respondents connected with the same variable may be different. May be different. So you should be very careful on adoption. It is dangerous many times. So in Western culture, mothers typically put their infants to bed in a different room. You may be knowing that. Therefore, the variable of motherly attention may differ between the two cultures. And the instrument for the Western mother will thus have to be different than the instrument for the Nigerian mothers. So when you try to adopt a questionnaire, to be very careful whether that items really can respond from the respondents of your study. It's tough many times. And in an means that some instrument irrelevant, even though it is consistent, sometime turn to be irrelevant. Got it? So an existent instrument developed in Western culture would need to be adapted for the Nigerian mothers by changing the items that do not reflect the culture definition of motherly attention. Got it? This is why we are always suggesting you to go for adaptation rather than adoption. I'm seeing many theses, they don't even bother to do a pilot study. They don't look at the probability of the changes of original instruments with the changed instruments. Which are the numbers you dropped? Which are the numbers you have? No idea about it. That's what I used to go for major revision of theses. And of course, the publications also, we need to do that. So I'm going to give you an example on safety performance. You're going to measure safety performance. So if you want to measure the safety performance, look at these two factors. The safety participant, if you don't measure, this factor consists of two factors. if you want to measure safety performance, it is not a unidimensional construct. A unidimensional construct means you cannot get these two. You cannot get under which you cannot get these two. So only safety performance will be there. But here you can see you cannot measure directly the safety performance. You have to measure safety participation and safety compliance. I'm getting some noise.
I'll request the participant to keep their mic muted, please.
Thank you so much. So
I'm sorry,
safety performance, safety participation and safety compliance, these are the two factors to be measured in order to measure the safety performance. It's not directly you are hitting this variable. So you need to understand, if you want to get the psychometric property of this variable, you need to get the psychometric property of this one. You need to get the psychometric property of this one. For that, a conceptual definition is not sufficient. A conceptual definition is just a concept. Take an example, stress. Stress is a concept. But what is job stress? A stress inside a person who is feeling the stress when you are exactly into the job. All right, but that stress of IT job may be different from manufacturing job, may be different from retail job. So the operation of that concept in a retail sector may be different from manufacturing units, may be different from an education sector or entertainment sector, may be different all. Hence, because the psychometric property of safety performance in a theater may be different from safety performance in a college, may be different from safety performance in a manufacturing units. So in general, across the globe, people used to measure these two factors, and when they connect it together as a total score, it is turned to be safety performance. So in which you can see that it is a 14 item instruments coming from these two factors. 14 items. Total 14 items. If you want to measure safety performance, you should measure safety participation and safety compliance. And it's all coming from three authors, not coming from single author. It's adapting items from Clark and Ward, items from Neal and Griffin, items from Probst and Brubaker. So these three authors, when you start reading literature, you try to grab this information of the items which are more suitable to your study. And look at this way, the operational definition. What is the difference between a conceptual definition and operational definition? Conceptual definition never allow you to do the measurements. Conceptual definition is just understanding the concept. And that concept should not be used for application. Understanding is quali, application is quanti. Got it? Understanding an abstract phenomenon is qualitative researcher's role, and you also have to do that. But if you want to push towards a deductive research, quantitative research, then you have to look at the probability of application of that concept in a retail or in an entertainment sector, or in an iron and ore sector, or it is an energy sector. You need to look at that probability. There, items may differ. So we need to get operational definition. Operational definition means the concept connected with the measurements. This is the concept. Are you measuring the same construct? This is exactly the question of operational definition. If you don't have operational definition inside the thesis, it's not a thesis. It's something else. It's something else. Or in a paper, if you're not telling about disclosing all kinds of these things to the people, it's not properly described. So they will go for major revision. All right. So when you look at these aspects, you have got the definition properly connected with motivation to engage in safety activities, compliance. So there are two activities when you look at the safety performance. How I got this one? How I got these two? I got from this definition. It is connected with safety activities, connected with compliance and participation. Motivation is connected with motivation to participate in it. At the same time, compliance means that compliance with the rules and regulations of safety. So two factors, when you look at these two, one definition, this definition is coming from these three authors. When you permute it, equate it, these two factors are coming from this operational definition connected to safety performance. When you look upon the first scale of safety performance, which is safety participation, you know that two factors. Safety performance consists of two factors: safety participation and safety compliance. So inside the safety participation, 9 items are there, which I have. I give some example, like I voluntarily carry out the task and activities that help to improve workplace safety. And in this project, people work safely even when immediate supervisor is not. These are all a motivation to that participate in the safety activities, because if they're safe, their life is with them, so they follow that automatically. So this measure the participation. But the second way you look upon safety compliance, connected with the rules and regulations. How often do you use all the necessary safety equipment to your job? How often do you use the correct safety procedures for carrying out your job? So these are all connected with the safety procedures, safety rules, regulations. So a performance possible only when absolute participation on the compliance. Absolute participation on the compliance of the rules and regulations, only with which you can measure the performance. So a performance cannot hit directly. You have to hit that factor through another two factors, which is part of this performance, which is called as participation and compliance. So look at which are the items under safety participation. You need to be very clear on, I'm involved in the development of health and safety regards. Likewise, how many items? I told you 9 items. These 9 items I have taken from Neil and Griffin. Neil and Griffin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Another 4 items which are connected with 5 items which are connected with compliance. You remember I told you safety performance have 14 items. 9 items safety participation, and 5 items compliance. So 9 plus 5 is equal to 14 items. This is the way. I am very clear. And you're making your examiner, you're making your reviewer tight-lipped. This is the way I'm measuring. Anything to be explained? No clarification needed. Why the papers are rejected? You are not clarifying things. How many items? What is the Cronbach alpha? Why? How many subconstructs? You're not defining. You just write, I use these items, I use this. This is not the way to write papers in internationally acclaimed journals. So look at this, how I am going to measure safety performance. What is the instrument? How many number of questions? What is the scale I'm using? And what is the Cronbach alpha reliability, and who is the author? I need to get this table inside your research paper. Then only as a reviewer or an editorial board member, I'm very clear this instrument belong to Clark and Ward, is one of the best, and the research scholar has used it. This is belong to another Neil and Griffin, very famous author related to safety participation. A lot of research papers can use it. Another is Probst and Brubaker. I have used on compliance. Compliance, different author. Participation, you can have more number of authors. Don't worry. Here you can have more number of authors. Most important thing, why that items suitable to safety participation, what you would say, getting responses from the respondents or not. That's only the concern of you. As many number of authors you can take it. So don't restrict by 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you can have 10, you can have 15 authors. You can take items from anybody. That's we call adaption. That we call adaption. You can adapt the items. If you don't feel that you got around 20 items from an instrument, and you feel that around 10, 12 questions are not suitable from that instrument, you pick that items from that and take another items from the others, and fix it by yourself. That's what sometimes it's called development. Really, it is not development. You can adapt it. You can. So if you don't read articles, how you get to know this many authors are existing? So literature review is must. So example 2 I'm taking you is competitive environment. I know that I'm reaching to the time, but I'm moving a bit fast. In this study, competitive environment was measured by 7 items. Competitive environment. You look at, so always you have to look at theories also. Which theory is connected with the construct? So when you look at the competitive environment, what it is leading to, if a competitive environment is there, okay, it leading to assessment of performance. are you competitive in the market or not? All right. So in this study, competitive environment, you are getting a variable, competitive environment, 7 items developed by Kandwala and Vos 2000. The present study chooses 2 measurements from separate study because literature argued that a minimum number of 5 items needed to get the proper. If you go to PLS structural equation modeling or AMOS, the minimum number of items required for a construct is 3. If 3 below, it's tough for the software to give you the right responses. So you should be very careful. At least one construct, don't use 1 item, 2 item, at least 3 items should be there under each construct. So these 5 is available, but however, Vos developed 3 items in their study. Thus, to achieve the satisfactory level, this study also include items from Kandwala. So there are certain reasons behind why we have to get into different authors. So when you have to select authors and the items from different authors, you should be very logical. Why that author is important, why that author is, how that author is connected to the construct, and why that item is so specific for your context. Everything logically should be explained with supporting evidences. If not there, nobody going to value you. The dynamic external, so the operational definition of this one, you can see here. So we are going to this, you see the same way, competitive environment. Under only, it is a unidimensional construct. It doesn't have safety, and it doesn't have safety participation, and at the same time, it doesn't have safety compliance. Hence, it is only a single variable, single construct. It is unidimensional in nature. So you define it, finally you go with the items. And 1, 2, 3. These 3 items you are getting from Vos, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 items you are getting from Kandwala, and finally you are developing it into 7 points, 7 item instrument. So you look upon this way. There are 2 factors exactly coming into. So here it is. They mentioned it as competitive environment. Once again, it is turned to be multidimensional. How? Look at this one: competitive activities and competitive products. So issue is that this person, what you would say, was talking about some aspect. Same phenomenon, competitive environment, but they talked about what you would say was talking about competitors' activities. Kandwala, but same instrument, competitive environment, talking about the products. So if you have only competitors' activities, you are not supposed to use this one. So if you have both these elements you are incorporating in your study, you need to integrate these 2. So that's what we are making use of, an integrated adaptive model. So it consists of these 2. Right. So the scale details, 7-point scale, Cronbach alpha, number of items, who are the authors, and the years. And this is bit outdated. Still people are using it, means that this is a landmark instrument. You cannot avoid it. So this is exactly, I can talk to you about adaption. Now we are going to adopting, very easy. There is no significant change in the items and likewise, right? No. You are not making any kind of changes, so it is you are saving time. Adopt that instrument. Well-known authors. Take an example, Uday Parikh, ex-IIM Prof. He's, I think 1 or 2 years back, I think so, he passed away. Amazing professor on organizational culture, and wrote many books. I think his Good Patterns of Organizational Culture or something, I read it long back, but very, very good instrument he has developed is Octapace, OCTAPACE. Every letter of this Octapace, O means openness, OC means that Octa, OC, cooperation, I think so. Then T, trust, A, authenticity, P, proactivity, A, accountability, then C, what do you say, collective something, and last to Octapace, E, experimentation. So when you look upon Octapace, you can get each word and a subconstruct, and he measured it, amazingly measured it. So you can look at, you are not going to take an example. When I took it, my first PhD, organization culture, then I didn't change anything. So I adopted it fully. So the advantage of it is that little effort, and you don't have to change validity, reliability already established, and likewise, right? So you think about 2000 period, and likewise, I didn't get proper in our system, we didn't get proper guidance and likewise, so we just adopted and move. But if my research call is now coming up, I never allow anybody to adopt. I'll be suggesting them to go for adaptation, which is more relevant to the African or Asian or US or American or MENA region or anywhere, that context to be taken into consideration. So you should consider adaptation. So intrinsic motivation inventory. Here, intrinsic motivation is not a general variable. So you cannot just mention intrinsic motivation. So if you talk to a students, motivation to learn physics, motivation to learn mathematics, motivation to learn languages, this is totally different. So you should be very specific on the activity. So for example, I enjoyed this activity very much. What is this activity? So the problem is, can you measure this intrinsic motivation to this activity? If you don't specify, so little change allowed in adoption, very little. You make it as this activity, you make it as maths and computer or sociology or psychology, something that is not a big change. Still, you can follow it as adoption. But if you make from different authors and you're changing all these things, it's fully going to adaptation. So this needs to be understood properly. So adopted description is who developed the instrument. You need to tell, when you have to write it down in your research paper, please write it down, who developed the instrument, who validated, how many people validated, and how they got the Cronbach alpha, different 0.8, 0.77, 0.78, this other 0.77, this other 0.78, this other 0.81, this other 0.91. So all these show the consistency of the past research scholars who applied that instrument into different field. Then you tell, we are going to follow you. If you don't tell all these supporting people research evidences, we are not going to follow you. All right. So always remember, don't put the measurements like this. You tell that this person used it, got this Cronbach alpha. This person used it, this got it reliability. This person, this level. So you need to mention that. If not, it's not valid. So examples of the items, some of the examples also should be given, and other studies that are used in the instrument, very important aspect you need to describe. So for example, a positive and negative effect were assessed using positive negative effect scale, PANAS. So here you look upon that when you apply this PANAS, Watson, it's developed by this Watson and colleagues report reliability coefficient of alpha is 0.89 for the positive effect and 0.85 for the so you have to mention all these things. This is original one. But when you do the pilot testing, when you complete the pilot testing, how much you got it? Is it nearby around 0.8, 0.77, 0.8, and likewise still okay? So there is a cutoff point, 0.6 and above, based on Nunali. So when that cutoff point we are considering, all right, we need to get that. Otherwise, average variance extraction, which we are following in PLS, and likewise, we need to get a cutoff point, 0.5 and above. We need to get it out. So this positive and negative effect is different construct you need to measure. So positive effect has been found to be related to social activity, but the negative effect has been found to be related to fluctuations in the stress. You look upon that, it's totally varied in their psychometric property. So we need to ensure that the reliability of these two constructs, sub-construct, are absolutely acceptable, accountable in your context of study. All right. So you need to mention about other people who have studied all these aspects also. So this I am not taking another example, and likewise. So if you look upon high performance work system and likewise HPWS, if you want to measure that, so you can have many items you will be getting, government support you will be getting, and that's the way exactly adoption and adaptation will be working. But remember, now the major, and this I'll be taking a bit more time. I'll be requesting the moderator to give me a little more space to explain to the what you would say, the faculty members. I just explained to you adoption and adaptation now. Adaptation, when you have to do the adaptation, the analysis you have to use in factor analysis is exploratory factor analysis. You are exploring the items. You are exploring the adaptation of it. Hence, because any adaptation, whether it is applicable or not, we are not sure about it. Hence, because we have to do exploratory factor analysis. Adaptation of the instruments need exploratory factor analysis, but adoption of the instruments needs only confirmatory factor analysis. So you need to be very clear on statistics when you have to apply instrumentation, whether the instruments I adapted or whether the instruments I have adopted. If adoption, do confirmatory factor analysis. If adaption, go to exploratory factor analysis first, then you do confirmatory factor analysis later. All right. So always remember this one. Now, if these both not possible, means that impossible, neither adaption possible nor adoption possible, what you can do? Take an example, something happening in society, and you know that there is a problem. And a problem is not a factor. A problem is not a factor. A problem is a problem. Many realities are connected with this problem. Many realities. Multiple reality. Take an example, students' achievement is going down in the classroom. It can be related to family. It can be related to the student himself or herself. It can be related to the teacher. It can be related to the school environment. Many factors are influencing this low-level achievement. So how you can tell if you do a study only through teacher, how the study is relevant? It's a teacher's angle. But when you look at it, student angle, why the performance is gone, very different version of findings coming. When you look at what you would say, family angle, the struggle between, always the stress and strain relation between the husband and wife, and the kid is always looking upon that, what you would say, father and mother, he cannot or she cannot focus because of that academic achievement gone down. Look at the student angle. I'm not interested to study this subject. My father compelled me to take that. My mother compelled me to take that. Look at that way. So the performance is a variable, is multifaceted. It's not. So that particular time, when you go for, this is only one example I'm talking, but when you get a new concept connected with a problem, question is, that concept can be measured or not? You know that when you get a new concept, do we have items? Forget items. Do you know what is that basically? Means that that phenomenon is abstract. It's ambiguous. It's unclear. So if a concept is ambiguous, unclear, can you measure it? It's intangible in nature. You cannot touch it, you cannot smell it, you cannot weigh it, and you cannot measure it. You only can feel it, understand. You can see something is happening. You don't have any idea to tell to the world how much prediction possible with the causations. Impossible. So a construct, first of all, to be built up, and that construct need to be built up through proper qualitative research. So if you want to develop an instrument, absolute qualitative research to be done. It's not quantitative research, always remember. An instrument development is qualitative research. And a qualitative research approach, sometime one PhD thesis fully gone to develop an instrument. Fully gone to 4 years. It will be taking around 3 to 4 years, maybe more than that also, one instrument. Because you need to get the cross-validation across the countries. So this is the way. So now I am going to show you how to develop a new instrument. Very tough for you, but still listen me. So even though developing an instrument required little effort on the behalf of the researcher, the questionnaire still must be appropriately designed. So it is important one should develop the questionnaire many times. So coming to this instrument development now, I'm going to show you an example of competence impact on organizational health due to technology disruption. You know that. We were talking in the morning hours, technology disruption, facilitating continuity of education, facilitating continuity of business, facilitating new operating models in business. It's facilitating. So how far this technology, this is one of the research scholar I guided, and he built up new instruments. So if you ask me where you get this knowledge, I don't have any knowledge. I'm already applying it, and that application I'm sharing with you. And this is more appropriate rather than you read a textbook of instrument development. How they built up it. And we have built up it, and a lot of citations started getting this instrument now. It's built up in 2016, 15, 16 period exactly. Yeah, 16 passed out. So that exactly. So example giving to you is connected to competence impact. Means that competence is a factor needed, and that decide the health of an organization. If you don't have competent employees, your business performance get affected. If you don't have talented employees who can absorb the changes, if you don't have a proper resources to absorb the changes, if you don't have proper psychological attitude, absorb the changes, don't expect any kind of health of an organization. So I'm trying to introduce you a concept called organizational health. And it has not been measured. It's a new concept. We are going to measure the performance of the company, not through business performance, not through market orientation. We are trying to measure the business performance of organization through health of an organization. So when you connect with health, we connect with the doctors, health drinks, a lot of things. That's for individual health, and instruments available already to measure the individual health, not for organization health. So we are trying to look into, we have looked on many models to measure the performance of companies. And there we understood that there is no measurements to measure health of an organization, health of a business organization. So we are I'm giving you the example. Look at this model exactly. Technology disruption, its impact on organizational health. This is the model. Technology disruption, its impact on organizational health. The moderating impact of competency building and innovation capacity, how it's affecting. So you feel that, you tell that continuous technology disruption is happening, and it is affecting the business. It is changing the entire competence DNA of organizations. Look at the universities now. During this COVID-19 impact period, how many competence you need to be relooked into? We call it as ambidextrous organizations. Ambidextrous organization indicate that exploitative, you look at the exploitation. At the same time, you look at the possibilities for exploration. Look at the current competencies available to you in your organization. Can they perform digitally? Do they have the knowledge of digital interaction? Can they really perform when in the digital platform? All these things are digital skills. We talk about it. Then what are the competencies required for that? If you don't make that assessment, it cannot lead you to a perfect company health, academic health, or university health, institution health. This is the issue. So competence adequacy decide the equilibrium, hemostasis. So technology, this is the model we are trying to measure. Issue is that we don't have a measurement of organizational health. We got everything, but we don't have measurement of health. And that turn our entire research standstill. We don't have any option. We have to start the work towards building up new instrument. Look at this. First and most important aspect is conduct so many interviews. All who can talk about the competencies required for a change. So the study is connected to Indian telecom industry. Even though my student was in Malaysia, he was an Indian student, and he was a general manager HR of a big company in Malaysia at that time. And his name is Mr. Hari. And he is amazing student. And he has done this research. Being into HR, a general manager of that, you may be knowing a company called in Malaysia, it is Maxis Telecom company. And he was the general manager HR of that company. He was doing under me the PhD. So that particular, he was aware about all the changes happening in the technology platform, complete disruption. He was telling, I was struggling at that particular period. So he did, first I suggested him go for interviews. Where you want to do this? I want to do it in India because telecom revolution is happening more in India in comparison with Malaysia or other countries. I want to do it. Good, go start interview. And he started interviews like this. And they told, I've been working with telecom communications clients in this region over 11 years. Talent management has been an obvious and challenging task for these companies over these years. The fast and ever-changing landscape of technology significantly alters the skill requirement coming. The issue is coming, skill is not adequate. For me, the only solution to manage such situation is built international innovation. So another word is coming. This is competence. This is coming innovation capacity. This is coming up training and development. Means that capacity building. And he also given the highly competitive, another word is coming, competitive environment. So companies should attempt to venture into current engineering process to better manage the product development. Means that if you want to really stay in market, it's not only applicable to companies, it's applicable to Indian education system. If you follow redundant courses and making the people compel enough to study that, it's not going to appeal you for the next years because your admission will be going down. Same thing. So you need to have the market intelligence, absolute intelligence, and look at which are the possible courses we need to redesign, which is can run through online, can run through offline, how we can do that, and different courses which is happening across the globe. It's a global intelligence connected with the local market intelligence needed. So here it is telling about from one interview through a global consulting. He's a talent head. Another, it's continued. He looks upon new marketing strategies, innovative products, unconventional products needed to survive in the market, competence needed, innovation building to be done, overall company preparedness on the technology to be done, innovation capacity is very important. So when you look at this interview extracts, you get a lot of factors. You only know that you are not aware how to build up this construct of organizational health. You started interviews on this one. Another director of the information service company, he also talked about the situations in telecom industry. And our team is currently working on several versions of Android operating system. Our development team is still grappling with major updates happened in the telecom technology, 3G, LTE. I have been facing several skill shortage. So the construct should be developed from the interviews. Why? Because no literature. Because the concept is new. We know only one problem they are facing. They are facing issues connected with business performance. Companies are not performing well, and we need to settle that issue. If you want to settle that issue, where we should look into, there lies a reality. So the reality is competence inadequate, mismatch. Second, technology inadequate. Preparedness not done. Innovation capacity not done. So look how these variables have come up. Everything from the field. If you look upon these factors, all these factors are coming from the field, not from the literature. So you conduct the interviews. Many interviews you do. What are the technical skills required? What are the readiness? See, look at the readiness to change is quintessential for the companies today, as the climatic changes in the business are so rampant with the impending changes in the. So they're looking upon why the companies are not ready for change. Because technological disruption is coming, digital transformation to be done. Why the people are not ready for the change? Because competence building has not done, innovation capacity is less, competence adequacy is not measured, hence because health is not good enough to absorb that change. Health is not good enough to absorb that change. This is the way you have to tell the story before you arrive at the construct. So interview 3, you go with the same way. Lack of skills, once again precipitated lack of skills. The connect upgrading the skills important. Innovative products, innovation is an important variable it is coming from. And global products, new products should be there. All the things are repeating, right? So when you look at the interviews and likewise, we have asked, if you want to do that development of questionnaire, you first of all go with open-ended questions. and look at why Nokia failed, why Motorola failed, why BlackBerry failed. All right. So when you ask this question to these managers, when you go for all these interviews, you get many words: technology changes, competence depletion, deterioration of organizational health, innovation capacity, collective competence deficiency, lack of anticipation, disruptions in technology, inappropriate investment, insufficient market intelligence, aggressive entrants, demanding customers, innovative products, price war, technology, discontinuity. So only one question you are posing to this maybe 10 or 20 or 30 interviews. When you complete, you get all these factors. You get all these factors, and each factor has its own psychometric property. It's only a sub-factor. We call it as category in quality. In qualitative research, it is a category under. It is a category under, or it can make it as a theme itself. All right. So we get this. Among which one is more important and which one is less important? There we have to go to Pareto analysis, 80-20 principle. Which one is, by picking up that construct, I can touch others also. By almost this many variables available or categories available, by touching that concept, by touching that 1 or 2 or 3, I can touch all those. So you need to prioritize things. So asking one question, you are getting this many words. Human resource perspective. Second question, according to you, from the human resource perspective, what are the major challenges facing the telecommunication industry in India? So when you ask this question to the managers, senior level, board level managers, competence deficiency, frequent technology changes, regulation changes, policy issues, lack of adequate skills enhancement opportunities, inability to anticipate technology changes, price war, demanding customers, changing product requirements, competition, entrants, new entrants, all these factors. I'm just giving you only few factors. Thousands and thousands of factors you are getting, categories you are getting. Still, our problem is health of the organization cannot measure, because these are all part of it. And if I do all these things, I cannot complete my study. It takes around 30-40 years. So we need to measure it. Only that variable, we don't have measurements. So another question we asked, direct hit now. Do you observe any organizational health problems in telecom industries in India? If yes, what causes those problems? When you pose this question through interviews, qualitative research, you got many extracts, many stories you are getting. When you came back, you reflected, you intuited, you bracketed, and come up with critical reflections. You make performance issues, revenue falling, reducing, I don't know what is this word, it is a technical term, product line depletion, competitive advantage, internal change capacity change, goal misalignment. The goal, existing goals of organization is not matching up with technological disruption. So we need to relook our organizational goal based on the technology change. So companies closing down, FDA reducing, mergers, cycle operations closing down, cost reductions are there. So health impacted by the competence deficiency, collective competence, technical knowledge, no R&D, no new products, depletion of product line, downgraded learning activities, attrition, difficult to acquire talent, turnover, competence erosion, imbalance. So how you get it, all these things? Through interviews. So if you want to develop an instrument, new instrument, it takes long days. That's what we told. It is different from adaption and adoption. So when you have to develop a new instrument, it is almost like a PhD thesis. It takes around 3 to 4 years, because you need to read and read and read, analyze, synthesis, and then describe. This is the way: reading, analysis, synthesis, and then come up with this many factors, out of which one is more close to organization health and which one is not close to, take it out, and then you have to build up. So many extract that is connected with organizational health. Now I'm connecting to competence deficiency. Which are the factors I should consider? So technology changes, disruptive technology, environmental changes, technology obsolescence, technology evolution, disruptive technology, changing competence landscape, 2G, 3G, LTE, UMTS handsets, network equipment changes, operating system changes, cloud applications, internet penetration, because a lot of words you are getting on competence deficiency. Now we are coming to health of the problem. Technology changes, anticipate competencies, improve innovation, improve customer intelligence, built up competence. All these factors are precipitating through your interviews. Once the interviews finish, you have to do another process which is called as Delphi technique. Delphi technique indicate that the factors, the categories you obtained through the interviews are right enough or not, you are cross-validating. So before that, when you did the interview, individual interviews, soon after that, conduct a focus group discussion before you coming to Delphi. I didn't add it because of limitations of the time. So when you did a focus group discussion, you are comparing the interview extracts with the group extracts. So are they correlating or not? The factors I have identified is cross-validated well, is correlating or not. After that, go with Delphi. What is Delphi basically? It's expert consensus. You get around 30-40 experts after these interviews, after these focus group discussions, and you contact and give this document to these Delphi experts. Please, professor, please, consultant, please, practitioners, please help me to get the relevant topics, please. And yours is final, and you need to get it down. And you are asking the question, what according to you are the fitting dimensions of organizational health? How do you define competence adequacy? Which are the talent dimensions of competence adequacy? And how do you define technology disruptions? All these things you need to ask them. So Delphi also, which are the dimensions of technology disruption? How do you define anticipatory competence building? Which are the latent constructs of anticipatory competence building? And how do you define innovation capacity? Which are the latent construct of innovation capacity? This you need to provide the content through interviews, what you obtained, through focus group, what you obtained, give it to these Delphi people, experts, and they will finally ratify, okay, this 80%, you need to get 75 to 80% consensus if you want to get a word accepted. If they don't accept, you cannot take that word. Lot many categories you got it, but you cannot accept that. So here, interview extract, you can see that. Organization health, when you look at the organization health, this many words are coming. This many words are coming. It's only connected with health. So what are you going to measure? Can I measure all these things? Big problem. Because everything is new. Nobody knows about it. And no items available to you now. This many the categories available to you. This many categories available to you. So here you have to search for the items then. So if you don't get this one, think about how you can move with that. It's very tough for you. It's very tough for you. So this is most important thing. You need to get it through interviews, observation, content analysis, focus group discussions, and Delphi. You need to finalize it. Look at this way. When I got all these things from the interviews and content analysis, I segregated it. I segregated all these into, see, 3 factors, sub-factors, which is change capacity, competitive advantage, and goal alignment. Means that all these words I categorized and segregated into 3 major sub-dimensions. Dimension is organization health, but sub-dimension is change capacity, goal alignment, and competitive advantage. Change capacity, competitive advantage, and goal alignment. So you cannot simply take that. Immediate level, you have to search which model is supporting change capacity, which model is supporting BANE, which model is supporting goal alignment. So we got 3 models: McKinsey's model, BANE model, Kaplan model. These 3 models means that you need to understand the difference between a model and a theory. A model you cannot apply in your thesis, quantitative research. A model is qualitative in nature, but a theory is quantitative in nature. Why? A theory consists of construct, propositions, logic, boundary, and measurements. But model doesn't have measurements. That was McKinsey's 7S model, Boston's BCG matrix models. All these things are models. You don't have measurements. So the issue is that you have to connect each factor with a theory or a model. If you don't have, you cannot proceed still further. It's tough for you. So we got this many. For when you look at the competence adequacy, we got this many. That means key skills areas in the organization, which is Bandura. Updation motivation, this one. Update activities, this one. These people. And expertise, they talk about, you may be knowing that Peter Senjan likewise. Fifth discipline, the book is called as Fifth Discipline. So you may be knowing these people, mental models and system thinking, mental models, all these things are coming. So this is connected to competence adequacy. Then technology disruption, measurements not available. So this is exactly connected to that. This many people, first person talked about Kaufman, then Bracker and Pearson, Kozlowski, and finally Foreign Kaufman is talk about growth technology. So when you get all the factors together, we need to take an example. I used to tell my students this way: dump all these things in single room, first a single room, and arrange another rooms. Take one by one, look at the psychometric property, put it into one A room, put it into B room, put it into 3 room, and one room is change capacity, another room is competence adequacy or competitive advantage. Say this goal alignment. So different people will be assigned in different room based on their similarities. This is the thing you have to do for development. So innovation capacity, likewise, we have to build up the factor and who are the people supporting it. Innovation task, which model we are following, or how we get this dimension. This dimension is supported by these people. This dimension is supported by these people. This dimension is supported by these people. It's not everything you get it from the qualitative field. We can apply directly to the field. You cannot do that. So what you're doing here is you try to, after getting these factors and sub-factors, go to library and connect and start reading it. Look at innovation support. Look at innovation support. How many Elsevier article available in innovation support? How many Science Direct articles? How many, what you would say, Willis or Sage or different kinds of journal article getting on innovation support? So you get the authors. You get the best of authors from those, and they are the people, they're the best friends for you in this journey. No friends other than these people in your research journey. They will lead you to misleading conclusions, right? So you don't like that. You need good friends, right? Always follow good authors and always follow not the journals, which is I'm talking about care list or some sort of thing. I may suggest you to follow high impact journals, which is coming in Sage, Emerald, Willis, or Science Direct, Scopus, WOS, and likewise these ratings, that you have to follow that. Then the same way, marketing competence, technology competence. And so when you have to measure competence building, you have to build up market competence, technology competence, and integrity. This is the competence you need to measure. Take an example. If you want to adopt digital competence in your company. So the first question, do you have integrated competence? Do you have technology competence? Do you have the marketing competence, market competence to perform that to the customers or not? So who are the people supporting this? This many authors supporting that. So you need to connect the major factor with the sub factor and the models and the authors available. So any theory to support? Once you get all these models ready, you cannot test it unless and until you get a theory. Why we need a theory in research? Because you are not testing the research frame. You are not testing your research frame, and you are not testing connected to building up testing connected to. I just got lost because of some message I got it. So you are not trying to measure the constructs. You are not trying to measure when you have to talk about the theory, you have to talk about the conceptual frame. You're not going to measure the conceptual frame. You're not going to measure the research frame, but you are going to measure the theoretical frame. So you have to convert the conceptual frame to theoretical frame by integrating the theory. So the time you're connecting a conceptual frame with a theory, it will be converted into theoretical frame. So once you get the theoretical frame only, you can do the research. So change capacity, we adopted McKinsey's model, competitive advantage Barney, goal alignment Kaplan. Still, we got these models, still we cannot apply because we don't have theory. So we followed resource-based RBV theory to look at that. So it's going towards that. Okay, the theory, it is connected to. So we need a theory to support this instrumentation. So through the literature reviews, only 2 instruments so far. So look at when you get a what you would say construct like organization health, look at possibility of getting an instrument, standardized instrument. Can I adopt it or not? Then look at the possibility of can I adapt it or not? Adapt it or not. And finally, if adaptation is and adoption is not possible, then only you can look at the possibility of development. So here we don't have instruments. Because of that, we have to develop it. So we take the support from McKinsey and Company, change capacity to measure it, competitive advantage Barney to measure it, goal alignment Kaplan to measure it. So look at through the literature review, when you look at the organization health report, that means instruments, we don't get it available, but it is measuring more into the physical condition of the people. So we cannot use it. Another one which is available but doesn't have the measurement, it is qualitative in nature. So we cannot measure the change readiness of the company with this instrument, and likewise, hence because we need to go for a new measurements. So McKinsey's OHI instrument is developed for commercial use, not for research use. Not for research use. Hence, we cannot apply. So we need to look at the logic. We need to look at the logic why that instrument to be used. All right. So if we cannot use that, many models, we cannot use that in our research because measurement, they have not developed the items and the scales and they tested already. Cannot. Hence, because we need to look at the probability of developing a new one. Second, this instrument did not fit into measurements requirement of the study. Hence, a new instrument covering all these 3 dimensions of the health need to be. Okay. So we need to conduct the face validity. Face validity indicate give your instruments to your colleagues, your friends, professors, or somebody nearby. Oh, this item is good. Oh, is it measuring change capacity? Yeah, I feel like so. Is this measuring the goal alignment? Yeah. Oh, no, this is not. I think you refine it. So this is informal level. Face validity is at informal level. Then after this informal face validity, you need to go for content validity. This is most important thing. This is most important thing. Once your colleague's appraisal is over, peer group appraisal is over, you have to take that sentences. That means I want to measure change capacity. How many questions you have generated from McKinsey model? You generated it or you adapted, whatever it may, but that is available to you. Whether that content is suitable enough to apply in an Indian telecom industry or not. This is the question. So you need to look at the what you would say compatibility of that dimensions with the items. That to be done through experts. The content. Take an example, what you are supposed to measure, are you measuring it or not? This is exactly. So we need to do the content validity through experts. How many experts? Maybe 10 to 15 experts you have to give this instrument, and that instrument, okay, this is quite good. Okay. After that only you can go for any kind of sample selections and likewise, right? So look at how we did it. We approached many experts and you can see the company, the position, the sector, male on female. Always follow gender neutrality. It's not you always talk to males alone, no females, no. When you have to look at qualitative study, gender neutrality to be absolutely followed. So we approached ASL, Ericsson. You see that how the positions varied and how the all our telecom sector itself. You see how many people we have approached to develop this instrument. All these people are high experts and very high managers and different verticals, product, sales, branding, network, different postpaid, prepaid, everywhere. We get the people and different companies we approached to get the experts. After ratifying them only, see, these are all the experts you can look into. And we finally selected a panel of 23 male members and 9 female members. We have approached these people, all these people, but I just given you simple.
I am sorry to disturb you, Dr. Dileep.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to intervene in
Yeah.
between, but I can see a lot of questions also coming up
I'm
in
not
the
sure
chat
about it.
box.
This is very heavy, heavy mods. This session is not sufficient enough to answer, but I can answer through emails. That is possible.
Right.
10 more minutes. I would like
to
10 more minutes. I would like to wind up this one through the knowledge. All right.
Okay.
So this is most important thing. So once that is finished, because I have a session at 11 in my timing, Morocco timing, session at 11. So I'm just rushing up for that. My PhD students are waiting. So first 2 hours I'm devoting to you, and the second 2 hours I'll be going towards that. It's a marathon session today. Because our distance is 4.5 hours distance, I'm behind you. Exactly. So just want to finish off this one, but everybody can ask, they can come to my LinkedIn platform or any social network platforms. Based upon my convenience, I will reply you back, right? Don't worry about it. So we selected finally 23 male managers and 9 female, whatever we got it in the top ladders. They are the leaders of organization. They can talk about the competency. They can talk about health of organizations and likewise. And 3 rounds of interviews conducted. And we completed the content validity through telephonic interactions and few sessions. We audio recorded, and likewise we transcribed the data. After transcribing the data, categories built up. After categorization, we built up the themes. This is the qualitative research, absolute qualitative research process. So in the change capacity, first dimensions of organizational health, you know that change capacity, competitive environment, and goal alignment. These are the 3 sub-factors under organizational health. So we get many factors So we got around this many experts to talk about it, and they supported. This is called as Delphi applications. So out of these 32 experts, around 26 experts supported that this factor is important. You should connect it with change capacity. You got it? So if you don't get 75% and above, we cannot accept that. So you look at here, only this factor is not connected to the change capacity. So it is only 19% support we got it. So we have to drop it. So here you look upon job security. It's connected to HR variable. It's not connected to change capacity. So they dropped it. Likewise, how many factors, subcategories we need to drop, and we need to get approval from experts. If you do everything by yourself, it is subjective. And if you do everything by experts, focus group discussions, and in-depth interviews, and likewise, yes, this is acceptable to the research world. So look at that way. Another variable we have incorporated is competitive advantage. This many factors finally we come up with, and this factor, resource allocation, turned to be, didn't get the proper support from the experts. And business measures, yes, rewards, it's HR variable, it's not connected with competitive advantage, so we dropped it. Remuneration, it's connected with, once again, compensation package, we dropped it. So some of the factors, subcategories, we have to drop. Some of them we have to incorporate, and that is the journey. It's very, very, very tough journey. I cannot complete it by 2 hours. Really sorry for that, but I would like to share this information. The third factor is goal alignment under OH. So we got around this many factors through qualitative research, and we confirm interview, in-depth interview, semi-structured interview, participant observation, controlled observation, focus group discussion, and Delphi. Then only you got this one. Got it? And we dropped only 1 item. So finally, we developed items. For this, you have to go to library, content analysis. Through literature, you need to get each factor. Take an example, how many items in customer decision, how many items in business vision, how many items in business challenges, that you have to build up. So when you build up all these things, you see that around here, all this, my organization, the management demonstrate by action, a balance between short and long-term objectives. Likewise, look at around this many items, you got it only for organization health. This many items, after identifying the concept, after identifying the categories, after identifying the psychometric property, go to library, checked all the literature connected to that, models connected to that, then built up the items. If already available items, you picked up it, modified. If not available, you developed it and you added it. And this is the way this instrument has been built up. This instrument is not at all existing anywhere in the world. This is a new instrument. Just go to my ResearchGate, and likewise you will get this instrument clearly. And this is the way built up. After that, you need to check. I have 6 minutes. So this is the organization health instrument. So the first aspect is change capacity. Second aspect is goal alignment, and the third aspect is competitive environment. Having this many sub-factors, this we call it as sub-factors. This is a sub-factor, all are sub-factors. These are all sub-factors, and this is items. Items means questions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, around 12 items here. Around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items here. Around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items. So when you have to build up a new instrument, from nothingness, from nothing, you don't have anything in your hand, you built up everything. You built up a new instrument. You built up a new instrument. From nothingness, you only one thing, my performance is going down. When you looked at it, what to be measured? Health is not supporting. What is that health? Organization health. How we can measure? Through McKinsey model, through BCG model, or Kaplan models, balance scorecard. Get it. Look at it, go on to interview, in-depth interviews, get the extract, get all the categories, segregate it, develop the categories, develop the themes. After getting the themes, look at the probability of content analysis, get the items, fix it, and then go for measurement model. This we call it as in PLS. I did it through PLS. This is called as measurement model analysis. And this measurement model analysis with which you look at the relationship between the sub-factor and items. This we call it as indicator. Indicator, whether this question is connected to here or not. This question connected to here. You are not measuring here. You are measuring here. So here also you cannot measure. Actual measurement is coming here because this is change capacity under this organization health. Still you cannot measure it. So the relationship between this and this to be established first, and this to be established second, and finally this and this to be established. That's the journey of instrument development, and it's very tough process, and it takes around 3 to 4 years. So this is the way. So I'm not talking about a lot of things. You need to do the exploratory factor analysis because everything is explored. Principal component analysis, we used to do that. So we need to follow that. And finally, now PLS and likewise average variance extraction is using, and threshold of 0.5 based on Faunal and Shah. And I think some more other things, heterotrait, monotrait methods, a lot of other methods also available to do this kind of analysis, and likewise in Conti. So basically the composite reliability score, which is 0.6 and above, we can tell that that instrument is reliable, a newly developed instrument. One thing you have to do, don't limit your study by India. Don't limit your study by India. You have to send your instruments to Southeast Asian countries, US, Europe, Africa, and different countries, and then get what exactly the composite reliability. Is it reliable or not? Means that the terms and the psychometric property you have used in the statement, is applicable across the country, across the continent or not. There lies the quality of a good instrument, right? So you look at it here. I got change capacity, this many items, Cronbach alpha, that is different test, average variance test, different test, and composite reliability is 0.92. It filled up. Competitive advantage, it's coming to this, right? Finally, when we test the number of items, okay, we're getting this Cronbach alpha, average variance extraction, and it is absolutely good instrument. Goal alignment, this many items, this is Cronbach alpha, and average variance at 0.5 and above, 0.9 and above, it is absolutely good. And you confirmed it. After getting all this, you confirm. So most important thing is item confirmation. Items are not difficult. Items are not easy. Items are thinkable questions, very assertive questions are coming. So this is the way you need to confirm it. So we can do the scatter plotting, and likewise, this I explained to you. Discriminant validity means that each item different from each other. At the same time, collectively, they're performing. So you need to look at discriminant validity between the factors. The factors are not cascading the effect. Means that this is the one factor and this is another factor. When you have to measure these two IVs, so it cascade, it masks the effect of the other one. It should not be that. We call it as discriminant validity. It means that Professor Dileep is different from Yachna. Yachna having a different psychometric property as a girl.